Women account for roughly 11% of game designers and only 3% of programmers. And on an average, they're earning $10,000 to $12,000 less a year than their male counterparts. In an industry that's already running into issues with gender diversity, and not only hiring, but in game design itself, this number isn't surprising, even though it's still troubling. The question then is, how do we get more women into game design? Recently, I had the great opportunity to speak with Matthew Rappard, the head producer for an organization called the Fine Young Capitalists. Their competition, Evil Adjacent, opened up, allowing women to submit their game design ideas. The top 5 were chosen and turned into formal pitches, complete with concept art. Gamers will soon be able to vote on which of these top 5 pitches can get turned into an actual game, and all the proceeds from the game sales will be donated to charity. While this all sounds like a great way to get women more involved in the games industry, I wasn't surprised to hear it had courted its own fair share of controversy. Though, I was surprised to hear who some of the most vocal opponents were. I also got to hear more about the organization, some of the awesome women who are really running the show, and how even these successful, accomplished women still had to overcome sexism to be recognized. I'm Stephen Crane, and I hope you'll stick around to listen to this fantastic interview. Why don't you start off by telling me a little bit about the Fine Young Capitalist? I was talking with someone on Reddit yesterday about it, and
So basically what it is it's really complicated how the mechanics work, but it's basically a group to get minorities involved in the creation of media. And the main reason is to change how they're socially perceived in the media, but also to give them contacts on a professional level.
okay.
So for the project that we're probably discussing now, which is sometimes entitled Empowered Up, but it's usually just referred to as the Fine Young Capitalists, we just noticed that there was a lot of groups that were interested in helping women in technology, but they basically didn't do a lot of follow-up, and they didn't really like bring something to fruition. So we just said, okay, if you're a woman and you always wanted to make a video game, and the video games, like, basically we said that it had to be like an indie game. You send us the idea, we'll take the top 5, and we'll give you guys concept artists to visualize your idea and create your idea. We'll give you some programmers and they'll help you out with the demo. And then you get to keep that, so that when you're going to the bank or when you're going to investors or anything, you have something to show that it's a real game, which is actually a really big problem for women. The only exception was we wanted to put all those other ideas online to show what kind of games women wanted to make, and we wanted the internet to basically choose the best one. And if the internet really wanted to, they could give the person money, and then we'd make the game for them, and then we'd basically give them profit participation. So it wouldn't be that you're giving the money because you feel bad about women. You had to give money because you thought the game would actually succeed. And then you get a copy of the game, and if you, let's say, paid for 1% of the game, 1% of the profits would go to you. And they would go to a charity in your name. And the only reason we did that is basically it's just difficult to send small amounts of money. So it's just like the whole thing is now, it's just the money goes to charity, but it goes to any charity that you want.
Okay, so how long have you guys been working on this?
This project's a while. We do like work in the field. So like I've pushed out 2 games over the last year. I work in television, so I'm in the process of developing 2 other television shows. And I do a lot of what we call IT projects, but it's like building websites or building sections of websites.
Okay, and now is the name of this project called Find Young Capitalists, or is it called Evil Adjacent? Is Evil Adjacent kind of like a
The
on?
Evil and Jason is literally the subtitle of the group. For just to explain, there's another project that we're going to be launching in a week, which is called Sinless. And what it is it's to get basically people who self-identify as black. They don't have representation in, say, science fiction or in a lot of in a lot of science fiction and not really in comics. So we're doing a contest where anybody who self-identifies as black can come up with an idea for a character. We'll take the top 20 characters and then we'll basically draw them out. The person who came up with the character owns that art. We put those top 5 online. We put all those 20 online. The internet chooses the top 5, and then we're going to make that a book, and that book will basically be given to public schools and public libraries so that black kids can develop a love of reading through reading a manga that has characters like them, but also increase representation in the media.
Okay, and for this project for women in games, how did you guys decide the top 5 finalists?
We basically broke it down. So like Lola, Giovanna, Melissa, I didn't really do much because we kind of wanted the men, we wanted to keep the men out of it.
Mm-hmm.
But they just basically they broke them down, and there was 5 qualifications that they were going for, and if I remember correctly, it's under FAQ, so I'm just going to read them out so I don't get something wrong and then immediately purge myself. Oh yeah, originality, financial viability, immersion or fun, how they wanted the idea presented, and then feasibility. So basically, I was involved with this, and another nerd was. We went through all of the pitches, and we just basically said these ones are impossible for the budget that we want to target. These ones are we could probably do, and these ones would be really easy to do, and then we arranged them like that. So that was like the first qualifier, and then it was just how original they were, how fun they were, the how the person was presenting the idea, and how it could be monetized. Because the biggest issue that we're finding, this actually goes to, it's a lot of women. The line is that men as men get smarter, they get stupider in other things, and women don't.
Mm-hmm.
So when men are involved in, let's say, computer science, and you poll them why they want to be in computer science, it's about basically the number one thing, and like light years in front of everything else, is computers are awesome.
Mm-hmm.
If you ask women, it's about 60%, but then they say it's are awesome. That's still the best reason. But they talk about how they want to change the world, how it's a really good career path for them, how they see it as a stable career, and all these other sort of things. So they tend, like, not to have not as I said, men are really like, I'm gonna make this game because it's amazing. Women want to make them for other reasons, and because of the fact that we want the game to be sold, uh, like we want it to be a game that's good enough that people would buy. We wanted to make sure that people like understood that.
Mm-hmm.
And if they had a different way of monetizing it, so one of the games is like a party game, and one of the ways is it's monetized. It's like mostly monetized through customization.
Mm-hmm.
We were like, oh, that's a good idea. So it doesn't cost anything to start in, but you monetize through customization. And we were like, that's a great idea.
Okay. And about how many applicants did you have for this contest?
We had over 100. It was really hard to get like the information out there. So we got about 100.
Okay, that's actually pretty good if you had to pare it down to 5.
Yeah.
Now, in my understanding, I was talking to, I think, one of your employees or someone who works with you, one of your partners on Reddit, and to my understanding, this contest wasn't without controversy, even as far back
Yeah.
as February.
I
What?
can explain this, but I
Yeah.
actually have to use feminism if you don't mind, and
No, no. Go
Okay,
for it.
so there's some. The phrase is usually referred to as the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually a feminist theory. I'll get the name of the person. It's an essay. But one of the things is that um, women tend to be placed in positions where they don't disrupt the patriarchy, meaning they're not placed in positions where they're given control. They're kind of, people still place them and say, you're really, really important, but you're not going to be making the decisions. So if you're working around in the nonprofit area, you'll find that it's almost one to one, meaning like women who are interested in writing about women in video games, women who are interested in helping children to get into video games. There's almost one of those for every person who's actually making games. It's very, very strange. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that happened is like we refused to, like, we actually had people walk off the project for this reason, that we exclusively wanted to focus on the women's ideas, and people would always say we should do videos where people talk about how, like, the horrible experiences they had in tech being a woman. And I literally said that's kind of like sending amputees to tell people how to join the military.
Mm-hmm.
It's like what I really want to do is I want to focus on these people's ideas. And the main reason I want to do that is I want to change the way that they're perceived so that, again, it's not like she's a woman in games and she's trying to change something. It's that she's a woman in games and you should hire her because she makes awesome things. And why this is really weird is that certain groups, like, they jump to people being exploited really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that the ideas, like, the fact that the woman only gets, if the game is made, if the game's not made, she gets to keep all the art for free. And if, like, she proposes the idea and everybody loves her idea, and like investors start throwing money at her, she doesn't have to, like, engage in crowdsourcing at all. She
Mm-hmm.
can make the game on her own. But if she does choose to engage in the crowdsourcing, she only gets 8% of the profits, which is about 30% of the profits that doesn't go to charity. The other third is split among the production crew, which is all women. All the key roles are women, and the company that's being done through is owned by women, and they're in the developing world, so they're basically expanding the business of creating video games there. And a third goes to us so that we can do the production again. And the rest goes to charity. That's basically the split. But it was like people were like, no, you should give her money and she should be able to keep 100% of the idea. That was a big one. And there was this concept that, like, there were a lot more options available to women to do this. Like, it was very odd that people would say that, no, you shouldn't work with this other company. You should just create the idea on your own. And if you talk about the idea, people will, like, naturally, like, just like you, give you money, no questions asked, and you can make it. And it got very, very odd that, like, we had to, like, monitor, like, the social networking accounts, because we would, like, send out a press release or we'd get a news article, and then a person would immediately say, don't trust these people, they're, you know, they're trying to steal your ideas. And we don't, there's not even an idea transference in the rules.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very, very odd that even when we were talking to, like, journalists, like female journalists at various online publications, they felt that this wasn't the way to place women, that you shouldn't place women as people, like, that they were in it for the money, that wanted this to be their job, that they should do it because they want to help children, or They wanted to tell a story that's never been told before. And just money magically like appeared. And this is like a very weird way of oppressing women, but it's really important to understand that if you're kind of moving to equality, if you want women to like be placed in these leadership positions, they have to be like it has to be their job,
Mm-hmm.
and they have to like be in it for the business. And it's a very odd sort of thing that happened.
Yeah, I mean that actually almost seems, almost insane to me. Where they're like, oh, we want more women to have jobs in the game industry, but we don't want them to be perceived as wanting jobs. We want them to be perceived as like these other things where the job is secondary to it. And that kind of, that complaint almost seems odd to me that someone would actually bring that to you guys when you're trying to be like, let's help women make games.
Well, that's again, it's this is just how this is like a larger conversation about how the nonprofit industry works.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like when you're doing like Samantha, she did a lot of our videos, and she wrote up all of our essays on feminism. She works in disability studies,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the issues that she has when she works with people who are disabled is there's some people who just want to give people money because they're disabled and they feel sorry for them. And there's other people that are like, well, this guy was a programmer, then he broke his back and now he's in a wheelchair. He can really still do that job.
Mm-hmm.
Like, programmers as a whole usually don't get off a chair at any point during the day anyways.
Yeah.
Uh, but it's like there's this dynamic that happens that if you're saying that these disabled people can like basically get jobs on their own, then you're supposedly taking away the sympathy from the people who are giving money. And I know that sounds, in the disability space, that seems to be an easier argument to get. But in the women's space, you'll see a lot of people who are like, I'm doing this project, and then their only means of monetizing themselves is through donations. Like, so they'll have a PayPal account, or they'll have a Subbable account or something like that where you can support them. And for us, like as I said, we put up the money to do the pitches. Everyone's gotten paid. The women get to own their art, but all of the artists who created it, they all got paid. And the concept is that the game will be made, and it's not that it'll be donated. It's not that it'll just be made on donations. It's that we honestly want the game to be sold, and that will, as I said, cover the money so we can do the production again next year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that kind of a model. It makes a lot of sense from a business perspective, but a lot of people, like, again, they just want to be advocates, and then the money just comes from people because like they just give it to them because they're so interested in it.
Mm-hmm. And I actually find it interesting that before you were kind of discussing feminist theory, like, would you consider yourself, a feminist, or I guess even when you're discussing theory, like an educated feminist in that sense, like.
Well, if you like on the site, you can see like we have like we have all of if you go under feminism, like we have all of the feminists as like video game characters, and if you see our videos, we actually like discuss their work in context.
Mm-hmm.
And my biggest issue is that I find that people don't understand. There's a lot there about making both both for men and women, but to understand why problems exist and how to overcome them, to
Mm-hmm.
understand why, let's say, society looks at a woman this way. And when we kind of discuss this sort of one of my comments that I loved Twitter that we got was because again, there's a lot of people who are angry about this issue for a lot of reasons. But she wrote, uh, "Who's this Naomi Wolf bitch, and what does she know about feminism?" And I was like, okay, this is not the level that I was expecting. But it's just that the main thing that we want to do is we want to change the perception of how society actually views women.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a bit of both. Like, I honestly feel that if women reach full equality, they will lose what would be referred to as some of their privilege.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the benefits that they would get for actual full equality, meaning being, having their idea being treated as an idea and not an idea from a woman. Being
Right.
able to go into a business meeting and no one caring what you're dressed as, if you're a mother, no one caring about any of that, just caring about your idea. Like, that's what we're kind of striving for. But I understand how, again, like, people, if you were running a successful business online where you just talked about issues and people gave you money, I can see why you'd feel threatened if someone just said, well, why don't we make those ideas happen and then have people buy them, because that's in a space that you've never been before.
Yeah.
And but this is like, if I, I can even reference, like, again, it's uh the clubhouse. It's, let me actually get the actual name so that you can do it. But clubhouse computer science, unlocking the clubhouse, it was published by MIT. It's basically, it's by Jane Magros. It's basically discuss why women entered computer science and the difficulties, like what kind of women would enter computer science and what you could do to sort of get more women involved. And this is kind of where that statement came in, that women kind of went into computer science for a bunch of different reasons, and they really felt that they didn't belong. And that was partially because of society, but partially because they weren't like the other men who, like, had no social skills and just were obsessed with computers. But if you're hiring people, if you're hiring a woman who can do, like, who's really good with computers and can, discuss things, can work with management, can work with clients, all of that is an advantage to an employer. But paradoxically, when they're in, university, they actually feel like they don't belong. And that was one of the lines that was happening with the women, like, when we were, like, going over the pitches with them. Like, a common thing they'd say is like, I never thought I'd get to make a game. And, like, I had to say things like, why? Stupid people than you have made them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like, I don't understand. I was literally floored about, like, how much that was, that happened. And I don't really know how to change that, except to just do what we're doing, which is basically saying, like, to do this every year. You have ideas for games, we're going to make them, and we're going to make them, sell them, and use that money to continually do it over and over again.
Mm-hmm. And now, if I remember straight, you guys also ran into stupid phone. Well, anyway, if I remember straight, you guys ran into some issues also with your transgender policy for a while, which I
Yeah.
thought was kind of absurd because, I mean, I'm reading your policy right now, and I mean, I'm a cisgendered white dude, but like I'm looking at it, like it makes sense as long as you self-identify.
Yeah.
And I don't think you guys are policing, but like, what were some
Okay.
other people saying?
Okay, first of all, this has to be said. We knew going in men would lie.
Mm-hmm.
About 8% of our applicants were men lying. And we know that because, like, the lies fell away really quickly. Like, it would be like they would apply and we'd look at it, like, the way that Google works is like, um they had to basically go in through Google. And then that automatically grabs their email address, and we saved that email address, and then we compared it to the email address that they told us to send stuff to. And if they were different, we would check up. So this is how we know about 8% of the people lied. But it would be like people would get their wife, they would apply, but they would apply under their wife's name,
Mm-hmm.
or they would make another like social profile, and they would apply under that one. And we told them we knew about it, and we actually like helped them out, but we said, yeah, you're not getting in the contest.
Right.
So one of the things that we were worried about is because literally your identity it's how you self-identify. um, we went to 501 Church, which is basically the LGBT community center in Toronto, and we said, if someone comes up and like just says that he identifies as a woman to get money for us, it's like, how do you say you can't do that? And they weren't that much help, but we eventually went to the people who run the shelters, and they said just have them self-identify before, like, they can't change it. Just when they come in, they say their identity. But even that is enough to get controversy,
Mm-hmm.
which is very, very odd. So I believe Zoe Quinn was the person. She didn't get the production at all, and she wrote a lot of angry questions at us. And one of the questions was, why are you policing people's gender transition or something along those lines? And we said to stop men from lying about it and to make it inclusive for people that don't have identification. Sorry, 501, that was it. 501 Church asked us to do that said that we could use ID, like they had to have ID that said that they identified as a woman, but everybody in the age group we were targeting wouldn't have taken the steps to actually get that identification. So as I said, it's just as long as you've publicly identified as a woman before the beginning of the date. And it's just, even that is enough to get the people off. But it just kind of spiraled into this larger argument where again, it's like, you're asking for women's ideas for free. That's taking advantage of them. Uh, if they're coming up with the idea, they deserve more than 8%. And that's a completely valid argument
Mm-hmm.
if the money wasn't going to charity. And if they were doing more work, I would totally agree with that. But that's where we got a lot of the really crazy people. And that's where one of them doxed me. So one of them got my information from Facebook. And then she posted these weird things because we were like just doing calls for like, we need a model. We're going to pay, we don't want it to be union, but we're going to pay this much an hour. We need somebody to do voiceovers. We need her to sound smart. She doesn't have to be non-union, da 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 da. We put up like those things, and they were like, oh, they're exploiting women by paying them to do things. It was a really, really poor argument.
Mm-hmm.
But then they banned us from Twitter. And as I said, we got one death threat, but it was from like a 16-year-old girl, so we deleted it and didn't bother anything about it.
Right.
And we got one person that threatened to castrate me,
Huh.
which I was like, okay, that's cool. But the big issue is like most of the productions in Colombia, so like they're basically, the line was that like Lola Anguet is in Bogota, which basically has almost a military police force,
Right.
and she was just like, I wouldn't be scared about this. People who say they're going to do something aren't the people that do it.
Yeah. That's not a bad point. Now, right now I'm also looking at your voting page, and I'm just wondering what do you guys have a projection of when that's going to go live? Like when you're going to?
We're doing up one more video, and what we're doing up is the art for the next project. So we've got funding to do 2 projects, and
Mm-hmm.
if one succeeds, then it funds the 3rd project. So the art should be done up on the 9th or the 10th, and then we should be launching a couple days after that, and we'll just be launching both projects at the same time. We're
Okay.
just talking with media right now because it's a good idea. It just doesn't seem to work really well in the social media space.
Yeah, fair enough. Especially now that you have like Tumblr warriors going on.
Yeah.
And I've actually almost kind of found that just to be really fascinating how you have, you know, kind of people who are believe that they're heavily involved in social justice, but they're like kind of cannibalizing each other in so many ways. They'll see someone who's, they think they're trying to do help, like you're not doing help in the right way. It just kind of that's something that's just always confused me. I feel like they would be more supportive of each other.
The difficult, like, the line is that if your livelihood depends upon a group being oppressed,
Mm-hmm.
and again, in disability studies, this is like all over the place. So like, even when you're transitioning, say, like a deaf person to using a cochlear implant so that he can hear, there are people that actually feel that that's taking away from his identity. But there's also people that, like, in all sorts of levels of disabilities, like, are actually, although they don't use this language, they're sort of against these people being able to exist on their own,
Mm-hmm.
because of the fact that their group then becomes less important. And that's like a really weird sort of thing in social justice. I find a lot of people come to social justice because they're looking for meaning. And our thing about it is like, we're not offering a lot of meaning. Like,
Right.
when people come up and they say, why do you think women should make video games? I say, because video games are awesome. Like,
Mm-hmm.
um, like, they're expecting me to like really emote and like to have a reason, and it's like, no, I like video games, and I know that women can make good ones. And I actually, like, I really don't. It's always a very weird conversation when you're like talking to a group and they're unwilling to support somebody who can make the money. It's just like, this is bad for everyone. But I just feel that, again, for the social justice movement, when you're trying to find meaning, when you're trying to make yourself feel better, when you're trying to show how powerful you are, then there is a loss if you're helping the group. Um, and that doesn't, and I'm not stupid enough to think that we do this project and then magically the patriarchy is destroyed everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if 60 years down the road we get 50-50 equality, I will be surprised. But I do feel that this, as like part of the whole course of different solutions you can do, this is one solution that not only do I think is good, but we can raise money for all those groups. So if you want to run a group that just does game jams where not like they just teach people how to make games, or even teach women how to make games, you can totally be one of the charities we give money to. We will totally tell people that we like what you're doing and that they should be the person that their profits go to. We actually really want that to happen. It's just, believe it or not, a lot of the groups don't want to step into that space right now.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you've mentioned this yet before, but you said the money raised is going to go to charity. What charities is the money actually going to go to?
Um,
Is
as
it
as the production goes on, we're going to actually say like groups that we would suggest.
okay?
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so a good example is like My Class Needs, and My Class Needs is, it's kind of like a crowdfunding site, but it's for classroom stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
like, my class really would like an iPad so I can teach computer science to elementary school students, and then people are supposed to give money, like, to pay for that.
Mm-hmm.
We'll just give them gift cards and
Okay.
say, here's your gift card. Like, if they want to support that site, we'll give them gift cards. But in reality, once, like, if the production if the production succeeds, if we raise enough money to actually make the game, because we're still doing the crowdsourcing thing where, if you don't reach that point, we don't do it. But
Mm-hmm.
if we reach that point, all we're going to literally do is just have a website and say, here's a whole list of them. We have a contact with a couple companies that give gift cards that you can use at like hundreds of different charities. We're just literally going to give those the people back gift cards, and they can use them on any charity they want.
Okay, so it would be up to the person who's buying the game to
Yeah,
determine what charity. Okay.
yeah, and that's just simply I know it would make sense if we had one to do it, but it's
Mm-hmm.
just that a lot of people have different interests, and the main thing, it's explained, but a lot of people haven't gotten it. All of the games support modding.
Mm-hmm.
Like that are being made all support modding in different ways. Some of them support like making your own levels, some of them support just changing assets, but some of them let you make really big mod packs. If you can't give us money, like because you just don't want to give us money, you can make a mod pack for the game and we'll release it with the game, and that's another way of supporting us. But more importantly, if you love this idea of like making a game and then selling it to raise money for charity, you can make a really big mod pack, and we'll totally put that on the Apple Store or the Steam or whatever as a piece of DLC,
Mm-hmm.
and then people can buy the DLC, and all the profits from that DLC go to whatever charity you want.
Okay, nice. Now, the Colombian production studio you're working with is Autobotica. How did you guys? I assume I
Autobotica is a good one.
Autobotica. Okay, I assumed I pronounced that wrong. How did you guys end up partnering with them?
We partnered with them because of like this stupid thing that I had it that occasionally Lola, who is like the owner of the company, would want me in for meetings, like phone meetings, because I was a man.
Mm-hmm.
We had been friends. She had worked in Canada for a while, and we had met then. And it would just be like there's a certain level of machismo down in Colombia, but they would feel more comfortable even if there was just one guy there, even if I was just repeating everything she said. And the main relationship with them is that they're trying to expand Colombia's transmedia presence. Their government is giving us substantially good tax credits to help for this production, which is very something that people really don't understand is that even in the developing world, there are still like high-tech industries. So we're just working with them. This is a really good project. They've already worked on 2 games before, and they've been fine. We've got like uber nerds. If something bad happened, and they can help them out. But the main thing is just that we've worked with them before. It's been a good experience. They like video games, and they're the audience that we're targeting to basically be seen as increased visibility in the industry.
Mm-hmm. And that actually almost kind of seems sad to me that she needed a man on the phone to be taken seriously with people.
No, that happens all the time. The number of times that I have to go to a meeting to be a man. Keep in mind, like, I really don't care if you make me money. Like, sorry,
Mm-hmm.
like that's it.
Right.
Like, I really don't care. But I find that other people do, and it's really funny that like I'll have like a production where it'll be like a co-production, and it will be like the woman created it, and then she's got an animation partner who's a man, and they will not talk to her.
Wow.
Or after the meeting, they'll say, well, Lola sounds cute, but she really does, like the woman sounds cute, but she doesn't really know what she's doing. And she'll have come up with the entire idea. And it's not like, here's the thing, like, it's not this Mad Men level. where people like are openly, it's never in front of the woman.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why men don't seem to understand. Okay, this is important. It's never in front of the woman. It's just that they're less likely to see that person as a leader, and they're much more comfortable if there's a man in charge, and it just becomes like, I'm here and I have a penis, and thus you can trust me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even though, as I said, with a lot of the times, my experience that I have is not related to the job, which is what gets really sad. So you'll have a woman who's in the industry for 10 years that does something specific. And I will have like I'll have adjacent experience. Like, I'll have done producing before, but I would never have done work with, like, let's say, children. And they will still look to me as the person. And again, I'm talking a lot, but it's an interview, so it's okay.
Yeah.
The the issue that I find is like, and this is why, like, people are like, why did you use the word capitalist in the name? And like, why is nothing pink? Like, that comes up a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, because all of the design was done by a woman and she likes it all. Um, it's that we really feel that we shouldn't, like, have this kind of feminine construct and say that this feminine construct, the kind of stereotypical woman, can also do business. It's more that, like, women have a whole bunch of different ways of presenting themselves, and they're really professional, and you should hire them because they make you money, if for
Mm-hmm.
no other reason. And
Yeah.
that's, as I said, been a hard argument to get to both the business people and the non-for-profit section.
Yeah, I can imagine. Now, you mentioned earlier that if this project is successful or the one that you're running concurrent to it is successful, it'll fund a third one. What is your third one going to be, and like, where do you guys think you can see yourselves going after this? Are you going to rerun
Uh,
this project if it's
I
successful?
I can we if the audience likes it, we'll do it every year. And the biggest thing is, uh, why it says evil adjacent under our name. I did reality television work. If we can prove that there's an audience for just the game, the next year we might actually, like, fly people down and actually, like, do more of a story. The reason why we didn't do it this year is that's a lot of money and that's a lot of risk. So
Mm-hmm.
we kind of like to do it small, see if it has it, and if people really like it, we'll do it again, and we'll cover a lot more of them coming up with the idea, them working with the artists, and those sort of things. But I can tell you what the third project is, because it used to be the second project, and when all of the trans people, the trans advocates didn't understand what we were talking about and got angry at us, we decided to move it back a bit. Is in this, less so in Canada, but more so in the States and internationally, there's this perception that uh, the LGBT community shouldn't marry and aren't good parents, don't
Mm-hmm.
make good parents. So we're just going to do an open call where anybody who's in the whole LGBT alphabet, and there's allies there, so that's practically everyone,
Mm-hmm.
uh, can write a children's book. They can write a children's book that's about 24 pages long. We'll take the top 5, and we'll get artists who actually illustrate children's book to, like, do like a cover, and they can say why this story is important to them, and then the internet will choose the best one, and then we'll just publish that book.
Okay, that's really cool.
And in that case, fuck this. You can give money to whoever you want. That'll
Mm-hmm.
all go to marriage equality. Just because it's particularly on point. And in the mirror, you have no idea how important marriage equality is from a business perspective for LGBT people. It's just it gives them the full protection of the law, but it allows you to extend benefits.
Mm-hmm.
And in the States is getting better, but in a lot of other countries, it's just you just can't live your life and you just can't work publicly unless you have that security.
Right. Yeah. Now, are you based in Canada?
Um, we're based wherever the winds go. Canada has Canada has very particular systems that make these projects work better.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning they have a very good tax structure for like for basically on digital projects like these, so we can get money back.
Okay.
Um, they have like one of the things is like this is why I'm always confused with all the criticism. Like our government has a fund that's called the Canadian Media Fund, and they'll actually just buy part of your production. So they'll give you money and take over part of a production to make sure that new ideas are made.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like even the culture here kind of likes this idea. But the biggest thing is like there is this huge interest in we're a multicultural country. There's a lot of interest in telling Canadian stories, but it's really difficult for people that don't have uh, again, it's an online publication. I normally use the word privilege, but it's actually contacts.
Mm-hmm.
That it's very hard for a person who's, has a really unique story, but isn't sort of upper middle class to have the contacts to engage, like to write a 10-page proposal that you need to do to access these funds.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes just so much more sense to run it this way, which is like, you do an idea, you do it in this way, and then we'll help you with everything else. And even though the money will go to making the production, it builds into that system really easily. And that's part of the reason why we're doing it like this, because again, I'll just go to entrepreneurship things or like tech meetups, even like tech meetups for women and stuff, and they'll be like, what do I do? And I'm like, you go to this office that's like all their entire job is helping you set up businesses, and they just won't know it's there, or they just won't be able to engage. And it's like, well, why don't we just help them out and give the money to charity?
Yeah.
Again, hopefully all the women who are making this first game will make another game. And that's
Mm-hmm.
all we want to do. It's infinitely easier to make your second game than it is your first.
Yeah, I can imagine. The first is so much of a learning process.
Well, even just to be trusted with like people saying that you can do it. Because like everybody, if I go to an entrepreneurship thing, everybody has an idea.
Mm-hmm.
And like literally I'll go to them and I'll give out cards to every single person, and I'll say, write me up what your idea is in one page, and if you do that, then I can help you move to the next step. And I'm talking 95% of the people don't even know how to do that. Like they're completely lost.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like something that does racial bounds, but it's like especially like weird minorities. So like black people can really hustle. And
Mm-hmm.
like I have never had their entrepreneurship, their small businesses, they're amazing at. They just don't have the social capital, or they don't have the knowledge base to be able to basically leverage, sorry, a whole bunch of business words, but they have problems taking it from a step where it's kind of them to like working with partners and working with business people to like expand their business really well.
Mm-hmm.
And basically the government wants them to do that, businesses want them to do that, but there's a lack of communication.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it sounds really stupid. It's like, did we get bad ideas? And actually we didn't. That was the weird thing. There was like on the bottom there was like a couple people who were like 14 or 15 that I was like, this isn't written very well, but it was still a good idea. We actually had very few of the women had like, this is a horrible idea.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but in all of the centers, so like when we were, again, the graphic novel project or the project to do the children's book, like we've never had people not giving us good ideas. And when we can literally say, okay, you 95% of them, your ideas are amazing, but we're only going to stick with these top 5 people, those ideas are all good. Like I don't, when I'm looking at the production, there's no idea that I'd look at that I wouldn't be like, yeah, I'd buy that for a couple bucks, which is, again, we're only doing an indie budget and that's what we're targeting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean that's really cool. And you mentioned earlier that like if this succeeds, you'd like to kind of bring them in for reality TV thing. And have you heard about Game Jam, that failed
Yes.
reality
Yes.
thing they tried to do? Like, what? I almost wonder like what lessons would you learn
Like
from
I can
that?
actually talk about that if you
Eh,
want.
Yeah.
Like, oh sure. Okay. The first thing is like, do not call that guy a sleazy producer. Like I've worked at things that producers have done in like Toronto with me. Asked me to obtain cocaine. I had one person who like was I wasn't there. I dealt with the fallout, but he
hmm
basically sent a PA to slow down the EMT because they were recording somebody overdosing. I
What?
yeah, they had a guy who they had this woman, she's like, you have a fear of talking to the public, so we're going to have you perform as the clown in front of mentally handicapped children. And I was like, what? Like all of that has happened to me, like in my works with television, asking women about like, do you think what was one of the questions is like, do you feel that the other teams are at an advantage for having an attractive woman? The correct response there is clearly, if the judges are judging the game on how hot the presenters are, we're probably fucked. Like
hmm
that's like the only statement you need to say. I understand why the people in that space would feel uncomfortable with that, and I feel why that's unprofessional. But he doesn't deserve sleazy. He's just bad. But the main reason was it all came down to how they were monetizing it, meaning that that project was extremely sponsored by like companies like Mountain Dew and stuff. And the issue was is that like I've worked with sponsors, and it's very much like working with a child. Like you can't do everything they say or else you'll be eating ice cream for dinner. And
hmm
it was that they weren't really focused. They had like competitions that were, and I understand like why the people making the game wouldn't want to do that, because it isn't fun, and they had judging events, and they really wanted to kind of inspire drama and kind of move into that reality television space where like people will say bad things about each other.
hmm
And from like somebody who's done casting, you have to find people who are like that. Like when you're doing a reality television show, it's only like one in every like 100 people who's willing to actually perform in front of a camera like that.
hmm
The majority of people engaged like the people did at the event, where they just don't say anything or they don't say anything funny. So what it seemed to me is it seemed to be like the sponsors were out of control. They wanted there to be more drama. The people that were there were all professionals in the video game industry and weren't professionals in like marketing themselves on television. And there was a really bad dichotomy there. And then these questions that, like, again, again, I've done reality television and I went through the questions. None of the questions were like sleazy for reality television. Like, that's my thing. Like,
I mean,
like
they apparently they didn't delay any EMTs for
yeah,
this
but
show,
it,
so.
well, it's just like no, but it's like there was like there's been a whole bunch of like beauty versus geek sort of ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where they've had like the women and they've had professional makeup artists, da 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 da, and they've had like the women be like, "Oh my God, it's a Switch. I've never operated one of these before. Have a man tell me." And like they're both playing up from the camera, and it would be that if I was doing this again, I would really do it as a documentary style, and I do it in the same way that you see Double Fine Adventure doing it,
Mm-hmm.
which is that I would focus on the people and why they're doing the games, because that's something that you can sort of record not when they're under pressure,
Mm-hmm.
and I would focus more on the characters because this is like me as a guy who's worked in television before. Uh, the biggest thing that's seen wrong with that competition is they were focusing on the drama of what happened,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a bad idea because you basically have to artificially make it. There's never enough drama at an event to to keep people interested. Um, and that's kind of why it failed. I actually don't think the idea is bad
Mm-hmm.
um, at all. I just think that they needed to take like if it was on television so that they weren't doing like everything via product placement, like they could do breaks in but commercial breaks in between, that would have lowered a lot of the pressure that I felt like the producers were under. Like again, this is because I have like industry experience. But when I
Right.
read that, I was just like, I've been on this kind of a set before. That I think it was there, but it was also that if it could have been either smaller or bigger. So if it was smaller, like they weren't in this isolated space, like again, uh, like it takes a little bit of time for artists to do stuff, and the more time you give them, the better the art is. Uh, Most of the time, but sometimes. But it's just like they don't do well under high pressure situations. That if it was just like the next day we'd submit the work and we'd talk about it, that would be more interesting than trying to create these artificial situations. And
Mm-hmm.
like again, I feel for I feel for the women that were there. But by the same token, like, because I had to get money, I just remember one of my favorite quotes from the man on the production was I explained the whole thing to him, and he's like, "You shouldn't do it with women making games. You should target women that want to be models, and then they can send you pictures of themselves." And I literally stopped for a moment there, and I'm like, I'll address the point about women wanting to make video games second. But your first point seems to be that you're unable to find half-naked people, pictures of women online.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, I don't think you like again convincing him to give us money or convincing he didn't, by the way,
Right.
obviously. Uh, but when we're doing these like large breakdowns and we're just talking about how women are being represented in media and like how the first programming language was made by a woman,
Mm-hmm.
and how Roberta Williams is like a great example that before video games, like before Doom, where the most like expensive video games were story based, you saw like Roberta Williams and other women in really prominent positions because like women are really like again women tend to like to play games that have a story, and those are the kind of games they design. And then John Carmack, who's not a jerk, but he came up with his other style of game, Doom, which has like when the title character is named the Doom Marine, and it's basically like there's hell on Mars, and
Mm-hmm.
like the story of Doom is like 1 page long and makes no sense.
Right.
Um, but the game pulls you in because it's so visceral. That's actually something that a man would more identify with, and less a woman would, and that's where there was this big gender shift.
Mm-hmm.
And as we're moving now, where basically you're seeing a lot. Oh, every game has story. Like even small indie games will have a story. You'll see that now this is a really good time, mostly because women are 45% of the market, but this is a really good time for women to come back and to start telling their stories. And I just feel that, again, like AAA development. So development where uh it's like basically if you're doing AAA development, the best idea is to determine is you're never looking for one person to like your game. You're only ever looking at like hundreds of thousands of people.
Mm-hmm.
Uh that's a horrible space to innovate in.
Right.
And that's a horrible space to tell a story that really resonates with a small number of people. Like, because if to make a story really resonate, you have to have a small group. Uh, it's very difficult. Like, again, I saw Guardians of the Galaxy. That
Mm-hmm.
was a great movie. It was still very formulaic.
Right.
And you're not going to see people breaking that formula because it costs hundreds of millions of dollars to make.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, retail distribution is dead. Digital distribution is great. You've got people playing it on all sorts of all sorts of devices. So entry is really easy. You don't have to have a powerful PC. You don't have to invest in just the console. You can play it on your phone, or you can play it on a normal PC. This is a really good time to expand the markets. Like, this is a really good time to get women involved, simply to make games to like literally exploit the demographic that is women who don't have games for them. Again, this is the corporate speak that I literally use to the people who gave us money.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is a really good time to do it. I just feel that the natures of AAA development make it so that people don't want to move into it, and the nature of Kickstarter, which is, for lack of like, their Kickstarter is looking for a certain type of game, and they're looking for a certain type of person.
Mm-hmm.
And arguably speaking, women get the short end of the stick on both.
Right.
And hopefully, maybe we'll do this. Maybe there'll be a wave of people interested in it. And maybe, as I said, 5 years down the road, it's like, this is a stupid contest. There's so many women making games now. Why are you doing it? And like, if somebody legitimately tells me that, I'll be so happy. But,
So, in this way, with your project, your goal is to eventually make yourself obsolete. Then.
well, yeah. The crucial point here is that as the contract is written, I can't make any money.
Mm-hmm.
My title is specifically bondsman. That means that I put on down the completion bond. I only get my money back if the project succeeds.
Mm-hmm.
Like, literally speaking, this is the least profitable thing that I can do right now. The
Mm-hmm.
reason why is first of all, like, we learned a ton about the female demographic,
Mm-hmm.
and like in projects leading up, I'm totally gonna use that knowledge to make money on my own. But it's also that, again, I've got women that I hire and women that I work with that aren't taking seriously, and if we can even change that perception, enough that it's like, oh yeah, she's the one who worked with that Fine Young Capitalist project. That worked. We
Mm-hmm.
should totally hire her. I'm like, that helps me enough that it's worth it.
Right.
But it's like, as I tell people, if we wanted to make money, we would have just done videos, because like everything, all the research we did was like that would be more successful.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you see people moving into. And we did videos. We just did them for free because we thought people would be interested in them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I think this is good enough time. So thank you very much for talking with me. I am really excited to see what is going to come out of this. This looks like a really, really cool project, and
hopefully it'll do well. So have a good day.
Thanks. You too, man.
Bye.
Bye. I'm Stephen Crane from Armed Gamer, and this was an interview with Matthew Rappard from the Fine Young Capitalists. I'd like to extend a special thank you to him and the organization for providing the interview, photos in the video, as well as the video interlude between the intro and the actual interview. If you are at all curious about the books or subjects mentioned in this video, make sure to check out the description in the video below, or click the note to check out their YouTube channel with plenty of great informative videos. If you want to support the Fine Young Capitalists, go to their website, thefineyoungcapitalists.com, and make sure to vote for what entry you'd like to see made into a final game. If you enjoyed this video, please rate it and subscribe to the Armed Gamer channel for more to come. Follow me on Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter, and check out armedgamer.com for plenty of news, editorials, and videos. I hope you have a good day, and keep gaming.